I
You
told
ever
you this
have
was
one
the
of those
wrong way. Why
moments where
don't you
your
ever
whole
listen to
life
me?
pivots
I
like
am
you
driving the
blink,
car.
and
If you don't like
suddenly
it,
the
you can
ground
get
you
out and
always
walk.
thought was yours just isn't? Let me tell you, standing in front of what should have been 5 acres of empty lammy grandmother's land, the dirt I ran barefoot on as a kid and staring at not one, but 2 monster mansions, that'll do it. We're talking swimming pools flashing in the March sun, iron fences with keypads, the works. I mean, I'm fresh off a plane, a year in the Amazon photographing wildlife, skin still smelling like river mud and bug spray, and here's my inheritance, looking like some country club I never joined. So picture this, I'm still in shock, keys dangling in my hand, when this woman in a navy blazer comes strutting out of the HOA office across the street, heels like little gavels on the sidewalk. She gives me this smile that's about as warm as a winter mailbox and goes, "You must be mistaken. This land's been under HOA management for months. And if you've ever butted heads with an HOA or had somebody claim your land, drop your war story below, because this ride gets wild." Now, my GPS said, well, my gut already knew the address, the coordinates, it all lined up. This was my land. 5 acres willed to me by Grandma Rose, taxes paid on the dot, even from the other side of the equator with satellite internet flickering out like a bad radio. I parked the truck, engine ticking, and walked up to the fence. Up close, it was worse brass plaques, security lights, young maples planted along the property line, everything shiny and smug. 2 houses, one beige with brown shutters, one gray with crisp white trim, both manicured within an inch of their lives, and both dead wrong. For a second, I actually wondered, wrong turn? Bad address? But nah, you know your own land. I remembered the way the ground sloped toward the creek, the old survey markers. No mistake. This was theft. Plain, premeditated, call a lawyer theft. Let me back up a C-class march. I left this land empty for a year-long photography contract. Jaguars, deforestation, the works. Good money, but I prepaid the taxes, set up mail forwarding, told nobody exactly where I'd be. This was supposed to wait for me. Land's supposed to be patient, you know? But I guess not in Greenfield Estate. I'm still gripping that fence, brain spinning. When I hear footsteps, here comes this guy, late 30s, khakis, HOA logo on his chest, walking like he's been briefed for trouble. "Can I help you?" Polite, but you could tell he already had me pegged as the next situation. I say, "This is my property. Name's Ethan Graves. I have the deed." And I see his eyebrows arch classic, "Oh really" face. He introduces himself as Marcus Doyle, HOA secretary. According to their records, he says this land was annexed by the association last August. Annexed, like we're in some medieval kingdom. That word hit me right in the gut. I pull up the deed on my phone. My name, my grandmother's name, clean as a whistle, no transfers, no liens. He barely glances at it. "You'll have to schedule with our president, Victoria Ashford. She handles legal." He's already shutting me down, as if I'm selling magazine subscriptions, not standing on the dirt my family's paid for since Eisenhower. I shove a business card at him, photography website and all, and say, "Tell her to call me today." He takes it like it's contagious and tells me not to trespass on HOA property. Cameras everywhere, you know the drill. The threat is all sugar on the surface. I wanted to snap. I wanted to rip answers out of his khaki shirt. But you learned and give him a reason. So I just nodded, got back in the truck, hands shaking. I drove straight to the rental I'd booked in town, a little studio above a coffee shop that always smelled like burnt espresso and old wood, the kind of place where you hear every step on the floorboards. I dropped my bag, opened my laptop, and started digging. First stop, county clerk's office. The classic government building, beige tiles, fluorescent lights that make even healthy people look like they've got the flu. Waited behind a bride and a contractor, handed over my license, asked for my deed and the full transaction history. When the clerk slid the envelope across the counter, I opened it right there. 2020, grandma to me, survey description matching every inch. No sales, no transfers, nothing. Clean. So how the hell did someone get permits to build 2 houses on it? The clerk looked up, mildly interested when I explained. She pulled up permit records to approvals, August and September, applicant listed as Greenfield HOA. How'd they get approval if they didn't own the land? I asked. She shrugged. They must have submitted ownership proof. Building departments upstairs. And here's where it goes full Twilight Zone. The building inspector, Rhea Landry, actually seemed to care. She pulled the files. There, in black ink on the application me name. My signature. Or, well, something that looked like my signature. Same loop on the G, same cross T's, but that date? July 28th. I was in the Amazon, no phone, no nothing. I pointed out, Landry checks the notary Seal Claire Sutton, July 28th. Not possible. If this is forged, it's a felony, she says. File a police report. Get copies. I took photos, scanned the papers, thanked her. Forged signature, forged notary block. This was organized. Called my attorney. Lillian West should handle Grandma's will. Smart as hell. Left a message. Someone stole my land. She called back that night. Listened, then told me straight. We need records. HOA minutes, notary records. Start documenting everything. I finally felt like I had a playbook, not just a punch in the gut. I didn't call ahead. I wanted to see how the HOA acted unprepared. Marcus was there. I dropped a formal request on his desk, state statute, and all, demanding the meeting minutes, votes, all correspondence. 10 business days. If they don't cough it up, we subpoena. He looked like he'd swallowed a wasp. On my way out, I swung by the notary's office strip mall between a nail salon and tax shop. The woman matched the name on the seal. Showed her the copy. She went pale. I never notarized this, she said. Pulled out her logbook in July 28th. She was on vacation, Cape Cod, receipts and selfies to prove it. Someone forged her seal. She promised a sworn affidavit and was calling the police herself. The post office was dead, and they needed a subpoena to pull certified mail records that far back. But every no was still a thread to pull. Back at the rental, I built a timeline permits, forged notary, construction my return. I cross-referenced the HOA minutes Marcus finally sent me with county property records. Turns out some of the people present at the annexation vote had moved away, gone bankrupt, or even died before the meeting. Fake signatures, fake attendance. I finally knocked on the doors of both houses. Figured I owed the buyers a heads up. The woman in the beige house, toddler on her hip, looked heartbroken when I showed her my deed. We bought in good faith, she said. I told her, you're a victim too.
I told
Keep
you
your
this was
paperwork.
the wrong way. Why
You
don't
might
you
have
ever
to
listen
sue.
to me?
She disappeared
I am
inside,
driving the car.
probably
If you don't
thinking
like it,
I'd
you can
ruined
get
her
out
life.
and walk.
Next door, the man in the gray house was pure. Fight called me a scammer. Threatened lawyers, slammed the door. Yeah, that happened. But I had to keep going. That evening, I met with Lillian. Laid out the evidence fraud, forged minutes, even the notary's vacation selfies. She looked at me, all business. This is criminal and civil. Quiet title, damages, emotional distress. But Ethan, they'll fight dirty. And fight they did. The moment the DA opened an investigation, I started getting threats, anonymous texts telling me to quit while I was ahead. Then the news hit. Local reporter picked up the story. HOA president called me a profiteer, accused me of abandoning my land. Social media went nuts. Strangers called me greedy, said I was evicting families for money. My professional contacts went silent. Even lost the gallery show. Meanwhile, the HOA president hit back with a $2 million defamation lawsuit, a classic slap, meant to scare me off. My attorney filed an anti-slap motion. The judge tossed it, but not before my legal fees climbed past 15 grand. The court kept delaying the title hearing. My savings bled out week after week. Building departments started stonewalling, too. Nobody wanted to admit they'd rubber-stamped forged permits. I almost gave up, sat on the edge of my bed, looking at an old photo grandma, Rose on the land, smiling under the oaks. This land is your blood, Ethan. Don't ever let anyone take it. That did it. I was in this to the end. Then came a break-it 20-year resident of the HOA, saw the news, reached out, brought receipts, flight stubs, wedding photos from the day the vote supposedly happened. He'd never signed those minutes. He'd been threatened for questioning it, and he knew at least 4 others had been forged, too. Once he agreed to testify, the whole thing unraveled. More residents joined in. My attorney called an emergency meeting, packed room, neighbors ready to throw the president out. The vote to remove her as HOA president was nearly unanimous. We froze the bank accounts for a full audit. She tried to threaten, but nobody cared anymore. Civil court came next. The judge wasn't impressed with the HOA's sob story. My attorney put the evidence up. Signature expert breaking down the forgery. Notary with vacation records. The secretary admitting he was paid to backdate minutes. The HOA president broke down on the stand, finally admitted to signing my name, pocketing $60,000 in commission, using HOA funds to build the houses. Judge ruled in my favor, quiet title. Both houses awarded to me $150,000 in damages, and the president barred from any HOA role for life. The gallery erupted. Criminal trial came right after guilty on 6 felonies, 3 years in prison, $500,000 in fines. HOA dissolved and reformed under new leadership. I watched the news, numb. When my attorney called, she said, "You own the houses now. Sell, rent, demolish. Your call." I'd run every scenario called he made close to $1 million selling both. But when I looked at those houses, I saw families who'd trusted someone to do right by them. So I called both families, offered to sell them their homes at construction cost $300,000 each. No profit, just enough to cover my fees and rebuild my savings. The woman from the beige house cried. The man from the gray house shook my hand, called me something I can't repeat here, but meant it as thanks. The community held a public apology. I donated $50,000 to a legal aid fund for HOA victims. Gave a talk about property rights, the importance of oversight. The local paper ran a feature, How One Man Beat HOA Corruption. Started a real conversation. 6 months later, I stood under the old oak tree Grandma Rose planted a new sapling beside it, pressed a plaque into the earth, in memory of Grandma Rose, who taught me to stand my ground. The older HOA member came by, told me, "You could have destroyed those families, but you chose mercy." I told him, justice doesn't mean cruelty, it means making things right. That's how it indebted me, the land, a new oak growing roots, and a community that finally took its power back. Maybe you've never lost land to an HOA, but I'll bet you've been up against somebody who thought rules didn't apply to them. So tell me, what you have done? Where's the line between justice and mercy in your book? Drop your story below, and let's talk about what it really means to do right by each other.